Hello, everybody. Let me give you a quick update of what's going on. So, I was planning on a lot of things. Like I bought some Dogecoin last week before the Saturday Night Live thing, and I was planning on selling it, and I could have made $600, and I didn't sell it, and I kept it, and I tried to play with it this week, and I ended up losing $600 or $700, and I got off my plan and my self-control, and I thought it was an opportunity to try to make money since they're going to list it on Coinbase, and that was completely off our plan. We had a general plan to put some small money in the stock market after we get our equipment and after we get our necessities to find gold. And I ventured from that plan, and I had no intention on even spending. The intention was to spend like 10 or 15% from our stock investments on cryptocurrency, rather than put a whole bunch of money in there and then lose $600. So that was a painful loss, and morally demoralizing, or motivationally just like getting hit in the stomach, as if it wasn't hard enough to make that money. And I took it from the money that I wanted to pay off some of my credit cards accounts. You shouldn't use money you can't lose, and I know it was high risk, but considering we have summer coming and we're so close to going out, I thought, wow, that might be a chance to reach some goals real quick. And I went against my self-discipline, and I lost $600 from the $3,950 that I had put in there. So that's painful. So, looking up and being positive about it, what else do we need to do? I need to raise my car 1.5 inches to try to put on the tires, the Yokohama tires that we bought previously, which are 4-ply tires. In actuality, I did buy KO2 tires before I bought the Yokohama, and they just completely didn't fit. And when I got this size of Geolander tires, I thought they were going to fit, and they also did not fit. They fit, but when I brake, they are not safe. They hit the fenders and everything else. So I think that if I lift the car up 1.5 inches, that they're going to fit. And I thought, well, since I have to lift up 1.5 inches, and the Geolanders are only 4-ply tires, I'm not really super confident that 4-ply is the best for the desert where we're going, even though you hear good things from Geolander themselves, but little other reviews from other people. I mean, compared to the 10-ply KO2s, of course the KO2s would be better. So the plan was to lift up the car, because that's 100% necessary. And so I'm going to lift them up. I'm going to raise the car up. That's a necessity. Will that work? Will that work for the Geolanders? I'm like 75% hopeful to 80% hopeful that that will work. Will that work for the KO2s? I'm 50%, and I have one of the 3 KO2s that I bought. I returned the other 3 of the 4 set that I bought because it was already mounted. And So what I'm going to do is when I lift it up, I will check the remaining KO2 I have to see if that fits. If it does fit, I'll spend the extra money. The idea was to spend the extra money, buy a full set of KO2s, have one for spare. But if we want to get out there, we might just use the 4 Geolanders that we already have and see if they work in the desert. Which is not really the safest way to go off-road in the desert if you really, really don't want to get a flat. KO2s are the way to go, but that costs money. And you know what? Like, I'm working to death and time is going and we're missing getting out there. So I want to get out there and actually look for gold. My grandfather's having his 94th birthday. Gold will always be there. My grandfather won't. I'd like to go take a trip to Colorado and see him, but we'll see what's going to happen. That's in July, and July's coming quickly. And if I wouldn't have lost that money, that would have helped. Okay, so another thing. When I tried to take off the struts, which I haven't told you guys about, I changed the suspension once in this car. I put Tiguan front springs and towing rear springs and Koni FS a special active struts in. Everybody else said they did that and they got larger tires in. My experience is, after all that work, number one, I could not get the front struts off the car in my driveway myself. It was a pain in the ass and I lost 3 days. So I wanted to do it again to save them money, but it looks like I'm gonna 100% pay somebody. Okay. And I've probably put about 40,000 miles on my car with loaded, heavy driving people, a rooftop tent, and my stuff on top. And the Koni Special Actives are not heavy-duty shocks. So carrying this heavy gear, I think has worn the springs that I put on there a little bit. I did get some Bilstein HT struts and shocks, which you might not know. They're have more resistance. They add a little bit of lift, and they stop the springs from being worn out as much. So I have to get some other replacement springs, because after I put these in here, it makes sense to change the springs at the same time. And the new springs I should put in there, from having heavy duty truck HD struts and shocks, that should keep them from being worn out so quickly. It's like $260, and I gotta try to get them in stock, and I gotta get them here. And we'll go over, why am I using my car instead of a truck. Number one, it's cheaper. I don't have to buy another vehicle and be locked into payments. Number two, my car's a diesel with 237 pounds of torque and gets 30 to 35 miles a gallon fully loaded. Number three, it's pretty dependable. I've got a CPO 2-year bumper-to-bumper unlimited mileage warranty. Number four, the storage space is more than a cheap Grand Cherokee. On the inside, it's a lot of space, and that's not including the space on top of the car. Number five, I put an eco hitch. I put a tow hitch on the back. Number six, we've got the roof rack, and it's got a rack on top of the roof tent, which a cargo box in it, and it should be able to pull everything. If it doesn't hold all the gear we have, I could get a little trailer, which I'm trying not to do. I'm not going to know until I fully try to pack all of our equipment, but I think it's going to hold the equipment that we have. And it's more comfortable on the inside than an extended cab truck, and when I get a truck, I hope I could get that Cybertruck and Airstream one day. But until then, I want to pay off all my debt and not go into any more debt and have any more payments. So I bought this car at 19,000 miles, and right now, after driving a year of rideshare, I've got about 92,000 miles on it, and I've taken really good care of the car, and it seems to be running great. And diesels are dependable, so I put a 1/2-inch skid plate on the bottom, and it seems to be ready to go. Except for, so not only am I changing the suspension, I bought 30 millimeter strut spacers, which will lift the car about 1.5 inches more. I don't want to lift it too much because that will ruin the alignment too much and maybe mess with the traction control. Because this car is a manual and not an automatic, the front axle will not be shorter when I lift it up. So I think that it's safe to go 30 millimeters. I really had questions. I thought, well, go with the 50 millimeter spacers. If the Geolanders could fit and the KO2s don't fit, or if the Geolanders, we run out of money, we want to just make the call and try to go with the Geolanders, okay. Look, the plan was also, when we go to the forests and we go to the deserts, you don't really need KO2s to go in the mountains. The Geolanders would be great on the mountains. Geolanders would be great going more longer road trips on the asphalt. They're safer in the rain. The KO2s slide a lot. They're not very good tread for rain, which isn't really important when we're going out to the desert here, obviously, right? But for family safety on longer road trips to remote locations, the Geolanders would be safer. So it's okay to have 2 sets of tires. I'm okay with that. It makes sense in different situations. You don't need 11-ply tires in all situations, right? So I've been out to the desert with my other car last year, and we were crazy with it, and we did get flats in the desert, and I know what that is, and I'll tell you all about that later on. I have respect for being prepared in the middle of the desert now. So here's the next thing. I could change the rear shocks and put the spacers in myself. It's not that hard. And I could take it to a local shop and have them do the front struts and shocks. And save some money. But the local, as good as these local guys are, they're not the dealership. If I take my car to the dealership in Sacramento and let them do the whole thing, and they could do my 90,000 mile inspection, and they could probably replace my control arms and the bushings underneath the CPO warranty. They could do that for probably about $1,600, which would be more money, but it would be better because these guys are Volkswagen specialists, and they could replace other stuff with what they see is wrong under the CPO. But I'm talking about another $800, and when am I going to go out and get gold? So I'm going over in my head, okay, I've got to get the springs. I've got to change the suspension. I mean, that $800 I saved, if the KO2s fit, that could be like for the other tires. So it's a tough call. I'm probably going to go with the guys locally here. There's not a lot you could screw up by changing the struts. If I had a lift in all the perfect situation, I would do it myself. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get some of the things off of there. In fact, in my head, I said, try it yourself again, try it again. Maybe I will, but most likely, I'm not sure. Most likely I won't. So, that being said, it'd be nice to have the control arms, but they're not, it helps. My car tracks pavement grooves and stuff sometimes, and you know, uh, the car's running. It's a tough running car. It's very durable. These diesel engines will go 500,000 miles. Um, it's a great. I've done the brakes, and I'm confident in this vehicle. Like I said, I bought it with 19,000 miles last April. I've got 92,000 miles on it. It's ran great. So I'm looking at some expenses, 1,600. I mean, I got to buy the springs. I got to get the equipment. Now I'm pulling my money out of Binance as we speak, and I've got to pay off some bills, and I got to pay off my credit card debt. I've got about $5,500 in debt from my credit card and my Amazon card and one of my accounts in minus the money I have on hand. I'm about $2,500 in debt. I'm going to pay that off within the next week or so. But of course, I'll have to go into debt a little bit for the tires and for whatever was going to happen with the setup. We can't use a dry washer in the winter in the desert. It's not fun to go in the rivers in the cold. I like to get out there in the summertime and go look for gold. When we were